Hey everybody, somebody asked me a question about how do you add smoke to an image. So I'm going to use an image I used a few weeks ago, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Are we ready for this? Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. And if you're new to this channel, this is all dedicated to increasing your creativity in photography and also as a photo artist. Okay, a question that was asked to me just a couple weeks ago, and that is one of the images I used in the past, they felt that I should add some smoke to that image, and how would I actually add smoke to that image? So we're going to do it a couple different ways. So first of all, we need an image. So let me open up that image I used, I think probably a couple months ago. So let's come down here to Photoshop and open that up. And with that opened up, there's a couple of images I'm going to work with. And one is the main image that I played with a few weeks ago. And I was actually doing some, I think, color grading with that and painting by light. So this is the image I used. And I opened up this. So the first technique that I'm actually going to use is something called overlays, and how to use overlays in Photoshop to add smoke. Now, you can find these for free out there on the web. There are other places you can actually buy these. I can't remember where I got half my stuff, to be honest with you, because I've been collecting overlays, textures, objects, and things for 15 years. And some of them are free, some I paid for, different sets. But if you do a search on it, excuse me, if you do a search on the internet, you will find places that you can get stuff for free. You got to be careful on the free stuff because sometimes it looks good, but the quality isn't that great. Excuse me while I take a drink. Yeah, but then your better sets are going to be high res that you can use over and over again on images. So you sort of get what you pay for. So this is just one I just chose, some smoke. And when you're using this, I'm just going to click and drag here from this layer over to my main subject. And we don't need this anymore, so I'm going to close out of that. And when you're working with overlays that have a black background, generally things like smoke and fire, some other objects, they have a black background. And what you do is you change your blending mode over here on that layer to screen. Screen will get rid of all the black and just leaves the objects there for you. Now, what I don't like about the smoke here, and let me grab my move tool, is that the thickness of the smoke is a little bit too fat for me down here to match up with the cigar. If you take a look at that, it's too heavy for me or too wide. So one technique, and there's different ways we can do this. I can go into maybe liquify to do that, or I'll just do Control-T, Command-T on a Mac to activate the free transform tool. And what I will do is right mouse click in there and choose to warp that. And let's see if I can adjust that with the warp feature. So I'm going to grab this corner point in. Let's grab this one, push it in a bit. Let's grab this point, push it in. And I'm just reshaping that with the bit to about that size. And right when I think I got it, just choose Enter on the keyboard to accept that. Okay, I'm going to reposition that right over the cigar like this. And let's zoom in on this a bit. That looks pretty good there, but I might want more of that smoke on top. So Control-T, and let me just grab this, hold the Shift key down. I'll push this down a little bit like that and enter my keyboard. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in. Let's take a look at the smoke right there on the cigar. I'm going to move this to the right a little bit. And then I'm going to apply a mask to that layer. And grab my paintbrush, B for brush, make sure it's at 100%, make sure I'm painting in black, and I'm just going to trim this away so it's right where the tip of the cigar is at, and that looks pretty good. And I'm going to pull back on this by double-clicking on the hand over here on my toolbar so it sort of fills the screen. And I think the smoke is a little bit too intense, so I'm going to pull the opacity down on that layer to get the look that I want. Maybe about 50%. We'll look at that. And again, you could adjust that based on, because this is very subjective. So based on your needs, your design, what you like to do. But I also would like to add some color to this a little bit. So to do that, I can just come down here to add the curves adjustment layer. Make sure I clip this to the layer below it, which is my smoke right here. So with that selected, there's a little icon right here, allows me to clip. You'll see a little indent. I clip that to the layer below. And now if I go over here under the curves dialog box, I'm going to go to the drop down menu and choose red. And I'm going to over exaggerate this. I'm going to push the red way up so we can see this on video, because sometimes subtle changes that you can actually see live on your monitor, it doesn't appear very well when it's pushed into a video, and then YouTube sort of optimizes that video a bit. So I'm going to over exaggerate that. I'm going to go to the drop down menu, choose blue, and I'm going to push down on the blue here, and that's adding a little bit of yellow to that until I get the look that I want. And that might be a little bit too intense, so I'll go back to red and push back down on the red a little bit like that. That looks pretty good there. And then I'll go back over here to opacity. So I'll click on this on the layer, pull the opacity, and maybe just drop that down just a little bit. So there's a before, after, before, after. Hopefully that's showing up for you right there. Now to add a little bit more, maybe some realism to this, I'm going to open up this picture of a cigar I have, and I'm just going to bring that into this, and I have it at the very top, which is perfect, and I want that to lay on top of the cigar and the smoke. I'm going to do a Control-T for free transform. That'd be Command-T on a Mac. I'm going to reposition that there, and we need to zoom in on this so we can see this really well. And I'm going to pull the opacity down so we can see through that a little bit. And I just want to line this up. Just resize that. And we'll place that about right there. That looks pretty good to me. Make sure it's on the very end of the cigar. All right, close enough, close enough. We'll move that up a little bit. Okay, enter the keyboard. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the opacity back all the way up. And if I go to screen mode, that's not going to give me what I want if I do that. Well, it did pretty good, better than I thought it was, but I got a little haze there. So I think what I'll do is, with the screen selected, I'm going to add a mask. I'm going to fill the mask with black. And then I'm going to paint back in white. So B for my brush, make sure I'm painting in white. So I change my chip colors down here. So white's on top. And I'll just carefully go in there and paint back to that. If I go too far, X on the keyboard, and we'll just trim that out. So that looks pretty good. Close enough. Maybe paint back in white around here. Oops, I'm sorry, black. Just want that redness to show. Okay, so if I pull back, you can see the difference there. Before, after, before, after. And again, if you want to pull the opacity down, you can do that a little bit. It might be too intense, but again, that's all personal preference. Okay, so that's one way we can actually add smoke to an image. Another way is actually, let me get rid of that. I'll keep the cigar lit there, and I'm going to get rid of this and delete that, and we'll delete that. Okay, so another method we could do is by using a brush. And again, you could do some research, search on the internet, find some free sets of smoke brushes. You could buy sets. And again, I've accumulated things over 15 years, and I just can't remember where I bought half my stuff. So, but you can find it out there, again, on the internet. Just take your time with that. I'm going to add a blank layer because I'm going to apply the smoke to that right there. And I'm going to go to my brush tool. So B for brush. And I'm going to go to the flyout menu up here. And this is where I have a library of brushes. I scroll all the way down here. I've got a set of smoke brushes. I'm just going to pick the first one here. And we'll just come over here, maybe make that brush a little bit bigger. Oops, sorry about that. And I'm just going to click on that one time. Oops, there's a mistake. Got to make sure I'm painting back in white. And then I'll just click once in that spot, and there's my smoke. And again, if I want, Control-T, Maybe I'm going to stretch it out, hold the shift key, pull that up a bit, and spread that out a little bit. Well, I'm going to keep that thin right there. And you got the idea. I'm not going to repeat what I did before. I would do the Control-T, warp it to shape it the way you want. But this is just another way of adding smoke to a layer. And then again, I could do the same technique with the color I did before by adding the curves and do that adjustment right there. This is a little bit too intense. I might pull this back a little bit. Well, let's do this. Control-T again. Let me warp that since I'm here anyhow. And let's just play with the warp just to sort of get the look that we want, and maybe stretch this up. Push this out a little bit. Move this layer above so the flame or the end of the cigar is above the smoke right there. And then again, you could play with the opacity as to how much you want. You can even add a mask to that and then grab a regular brush. So come up here to a regular type of brush, and I might drop my opacity down to about 30% on the brush and just lighten that up a little bit, but maybe you leave more at the top. And again, that's, all personal preference on that. So there's the smoke. And so there's a couple different ways of adding smoke to your project. Obviously, you want to have something that will give off smoke, but a couple different ways to think. One is using overlays with a screen blending mode, and the other technique is to find a smoke brush. You can find sets out there for you to use. So hopefully you learned something here in this quick little video. And if you could do me a favor, if you liked this, you learned something, please like the video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, hit that notification bell. That way you're actually notified when I upload a new video. All right, with that said, my ending is always typically the same, and that is grab that camera, get out there, start practicing making mistakes, and always focus on thinking out of the box. Let's do it.